Good morning, everyone. It's Joker. It's early in the morning because I couldn't sleep for longer. Feeling a bit better, so face cam's back. But we got to do the boss battles for JUBILEE now. And small disclaimer, different from the normal disclaimers, is that obviously JUBILEEs are meta focused. So if you don't have the full meta, you're not gonna do very well. You can have half the meta and you can do okay, but if you want to do the points that I'm about to show you, then you kinda need everybody. You kinda need everybody. So I'm currently ranked 2 with 689,000. I'll put it on the screen, but Japan has people in like the 850s, if not higher, and I have no idea what they're doing and smoking over there. But these are my scores right now. So currently 215.5 on Boss Battle 1, still rank 1, surprisingly. And then rank 5 on Boss Battle 2 with 206. So, the teams I have work, but obviously it's quite whaley. So, this is the team we're going to show off for Boss Battle 1, Boss Battle 1 to begin with. It's my highest scoring team. It is heavily RNG based because I have Albis, who is going to give Pierce to our two big-time AoE damage dealers, Violet and Lumi, and also lower the Pierce resistance by 30%, because the enemies have a natural 20% resistance to Pierce. I think Frey gives it? Yeah. So, Pierce resistance by 20% for 5 turns, that is active on the nuke turn. So because Albis lowers by 50, we're canceling it out, so we're at 30% Pierce resistance down. The one way I could improve the score is if I totally scrapped Albis and brought Dark Valentine and got her full 80% buff, but that is even more RNG, and I don't even want to try and attempt that. So if you have this team and you have Dark Lumi and you have her skill awaken, be my guest. You can try it out, but I'm gonna call it because I'm getting my 600 crystals. So let's put up the team for it real fast. Boss Battle 1. So we're gonna go at kind of a faster pace because these boss battles take a bit. So 150% speed. So turn 1, since I don't have an orange orb changer, I end up just sending the 2 orange to get them out of the way, so that next turn I can pretty confidently get a full blue orb send. So turn 1, we've got 3 enemies, and we got the 2 orange, 4 blue, and I'm going to swap in our damage dealers, or at least we'll leave Violet out just in case we need to do the orb swap with her. But I send the 2 oranges, which gives us 1 green and 1 blue, which is perfect. So we can use Albis here, we could use Guy here, preferably Albis because it's cheaper, and then we can get them out for the 2 AoEs. It's really important that you get the 2 AoE units built up more so than Guy, because we have 3 enemies, and Guy's single target damage will definitely outclass what the girls do, but since they're hitting everybody, they actually do more damage. So it's better to prioritize getting their EX ults and getting most buffs on them rather than trying to go for Guy, who will definitely add to your damage total, but not as much. Even my 120 Guy versus a 100 Violet and a 104 Valentine will do less damage overall. But honestly, any blue team you can take in here, any blue focus team. I have a bunch of clips. We probably won't show everything from all of them because they're long runs, right? But you can bring the light 3.0 team in Pierce. It's not going to get you a good score, but it'll get you something. It just counts how much total damage you do. You don't need to be on the meta to get a score because it's just how much damage. It's just that the meta team will help you do the most damage because they get that extra 60% damage buff from Velzard. The 2 of them are Earth, so against space units, so that definitely helps, but you could bring Light 3.0, you could bring Water 2.0, you could bring some random hodgepodge of crap, as long as it's blue focused. You could even attempt to bring Cabby in here and run a green team. I didn't actually try that, but if you bring enough green orb changers, I guess it could work. Erin is free to play Earth, so she would help, I guess. But here we go. Turn 4. We've already used some alts here, so that's... Actually, no, I don't think we used any alts here yet. I think we're going to do it next turn. I think. Hold on. This clip is really long. Well, no, we're right on. Hold on. Nope. Okay. I don't know what I was doing. There's extra segment in here that I need to cut out. Okay, so I've got 2 alts here with 3 turns left. So what we're going to do is, I think we send them and try and get them back. So we'll do Rimuru's 90% buff right here for the alt gauge, and then we'll probably... what do we do here, actually? Alright, so orb change, the swap, extra alt gauge. Alright. No, we don't go for it. Okay. So we're just going to hold on to the EX alt. So we're going to try and get him, and then we're going to bank on the Albis Pierce giving us the most damage. So, you know, in a lot of runs, you're probably better off doing like a half nuke kind of thing on turn 4 or 5, just to give you extra damage, and then rebuilding back up to EX alts by the final turn, which it's definitely possible, since Rimuru by then will be 90 or 100% alt gauge on his skill. So as long as you can make it work, it can happen. It's just, will it happen is the key word. So Rimuru's buff here will get Valentine up to max alt gauge, get Rimuru up, full hand of blues again. We just need to have 320 points to use all 4 of the big time buffs, which, you know, can be slightly difficult. And we also need to make sure that Guy is in the back, because he is not going to get the Pierce buff from Albis. So here is the nuke turn. We have 2 extra stacks of Velzard to put on. We're not going to use Rimuru for anything, so we're going to swap him out for Albis. We're going to put the Pierce buff on and the resistance down on our 2 AoE units to help them hit the hardest. And then Guy comes in, and we will use the rest of the buffs. Guy, Valentine, and Violets. And then this will be our final damage turn. Unfortunately, couldn't get a full hand of blues, but at least it's a full 6 orb send, and one of them is blue, so one of them is not nerfed. So 2 more stacks. I believe I have a crit damage charm on, or an alt damage charm, one of the 2. So Valentine does like 1 million across the board. Violet does another 1.14 million. And then Guy does almost 2 million right there for my final high score of 9.4. But I get very lucky with 2 counters to put me over 9.6 million. So that's the run. It could have gone better had I nuked with a couple of the units on like turn 4 instead of holding everything until the final turn. But 215 is not far off from like the JP side. It's like 238 or something. So they probably nuked a little bit extra and had full 120 team for Lumi and Violet. So I think that's what happened there. But 215 is a very good score with Albis. It's just you need the RNG because you don't have a dedicated orange orb changer. So that is the first team. Let's move on to another team. Alright, so assuming you either don't or can't use Lumi, or Albis, sorry, or Lumi, you could definitely bring either, you know, Fount of Wisdom Rimuru, who has the orange orb change and has his own physical buff, which technically kind of overlaps with Valentine's, but it is slightly better if you combine them both, because then you'll be getting the 65% physical damage plus the 20% physical resistance plus Lumi's turn 8 effect of the crit resistance down. So I mean, it's a big time skill for minimal gain, but it does, you know, eliminate some of the RNG because you do have an orange orb changer. You could also easily swap Rimuru out for the free-to-play Shion and get those crit damage stacks as well, like fully able, fully usable. She will do, you know, less damage. Even with 4 crit stacks on them, they do end up doing less damage than the Albis run that I had, and I believe slightly less than the Rimuru run, actually. But so I have the Rimuru run right here, and I don't think we need to watch all of it. because it is just essentially blues. But at least turn 1, I do get a full hand of blues to work with, and then we'll bring in Lumi, and then we'll just kind of send it. So I don't pre-nuke anywhere in this run as well, so it also could be better, but it's still a very decent score. So we'll just see what turn 2 is like, and then we'll fast forward to the actual nuke. So it was pretty terrible, but we do, I think, have enough points to work with it. Yeah, because we need 55 points. So we're gonna stack with Velzard here, and then we're going to get Valentine out for Violet. And we're going to steal those, and then we'll use Guy's Orb Change. So, I mean, the RNG is definitely less with this run. It's just that you do less damage overall. So that's turn 2, and then, you know, turn 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are just the same of buffing. So we get to the nuke turn, and, well, the pre-nuke, the before nuke turn. So we're sending Rimuru's EX ult just unbuffed right now. We're not going to give him anything else because I don't want to make our skill costs any higher than they need to be. Because we're going to get just enough to get all 4 of the buffs right here. Unfortunately, not another stack of Velzards, so whatever charm effect I have on, we don't get it. So, quite unfortunate. What am I doing here? What are we doing here? Oh, do I not? Hold on. Okay, so I swap Violet out and then use Rimuru's Orb Steal to steal Rimuru's Orb, which does get us points and another Velzard. Barely enough, 326, and we need 320. So I sacrificed Rimuru's Orb for extra points and another stack of Velzard. So I could have done an EX ult there, but really it wouldn't have done that much because it was unbuffed. So, oh well. But this does set us up pretty well, so now we can swap Violet in for EX Rimuru, well, Earth Rimuru, and then put the physical buff with Rimuru on, and then we can bring Guy in. So essentially it's just, you know, buffing the girls up even more than what they're already going to be buffed with, and then nuking. So again, it does work. You can definitely bring Shion if you don't have Rimuru, but you know, if you don't have the meta team, or you only have Guy, Violet, and not Violet, but Guy, Valentine, and Velzard, you have some options that you can swap out with. I do have a clip for that, and it's okay. It's just okay. So here's the nuke. We get not a full hand of blues or, you know, full orbs of anything, but 1 million with Valentine. Violet does 1 million, and then Guy does 1.9 million. So slightly less, and our final ending score is 8.9. So we didn't quite break the 9 million barrier like our last team did, that did 9.6 with the 2 counterattacks, but it's still a pretty reasonable score. And at the time, it put me pretty high, because I think this is one of my earlier runs. So yeah, 201, and my new score is like 215, so pretty close. But let's move on to the not-so-whaley team anymore. Alright, so if you only summoned on the first banner and got lucky and got all 3 of the units, you're obviously missing quite a bit of power. You're missing Violet and her big-time debuff and buff, and you're missing Rimuru with his, you know, ult gauge. So without Rimuru, getting EX ults is going to be quite challenging. Even if you have, you know, charms that give you ult gauge on your highest unit, or, you know, blue gauge ults, because without, you know, EX Rimuru, you can't swap orbs ult out, and you can't just give people a full ult gauge towards the end of the fight. So realistically, you know, you're going to be hampered just from doing not EX ults. But this team is, assuming you did, you know, you have the 3 new units on the first banner, we're going to have Water Rimuru for the orb changing and the RNG, you know, not so much. And then Space Yuuki, also on the banner, so you may have pulled him, right? You may have pulled him. He is an AoE focused unit, he is physical, and he's on Warrior's Mind, so he can get the extra damage stacks. And he's not a terrible substitution, because, you know, he has his own attack buff, which no one else on this team is giving them. He also gives himself an AoE damage buff with that skill, so his ult will do more damage. And you get that 25% ult damage resistance down on his second skill, which will help everybody out. So, I mean, he is a good substitution. Again, like, you could bring Carrion if you wanted to do the crit damage on everybody as well, instead of Xion, maybe, because Xion gives 5% with every stack. Carrion would give 20% flat across the board, which, you know, normally if you're running Violet, it wouldn't be that good because you would already be getting temporary crit buff from her, but, you know, since we don't have Violet, you could definitely sub Xion out for Space Carrion, and it would run pretty much the same way. Where is he? He's right there. Because he still has the orange orb change. He has his own attack buff, as well as the crit damage buff. And you can hold the crit damage buff on people if you want. So you could use it once, throw Guy in the back, and then use it again with him, or on Yuki and Valentine, and then they have it on the nuke, and then bring Guy back in and he would still have it. So that's definitely a possibility. But this is the run I did with Yuki and Water Rimuru. And obviously, again, it's not going to score you the highest, but does that go up? It did go up. But, you know, it will give you a score, and you're running technically 4 meta units, because there's 4 Warrior's Mind characters here, being Xion, Guy, Yuki, and Valentine. Again, you're wanting to prioritize the AoE units, so Valentine and Yuki are your high priority. Guy is not as important. Yuki, thankfully, only needs 1 ult gauge, because he's not an EX unit, so it's easier for him to build up, and then we can just put him in the back with his attack buff on and just kind of hold it for now. But, you know, it's essentially the same. I don't think I nuke on turn 4 or 5 with these units either. It's just, you know, RNGing ourselves, attempting to get an EX ult for Valentine, because I do want that, and I believe I have my single target ult gauge charm on to give her the buff as well. So, right here, it's kind of unfortunate, but we do have Water Rimuru, who can at least orb steal. If you have her, you could bring Light 3.0 Millim for an orb steal and that 45% attack buff. It doesn't do as much as you would think, but it can eliminate some extra RNG, especially if you're going to run the meta team just without your 5th slot. Instead of being Albis or Rimuru or someone, it would be Millim. So you would have 2 orb stealers, being Violet and Millim, and then you would have Guy. It could work. I didn't try it out personally, but, you know, it's something that if you have the ability to do so, you definitely could. It's just that not too many people have Light 3.0 Millim to throw about on their teams. So here we get lucky. We get Xion stunned, and that's okay. So we have Water Rimuru to steal the rest of those orbs. So we're going to use the Valentine skill here, give ourselves a stack on Yuki and Valentine, and then we're going to swap in Rimuru for Val, steal those orbs, and then use Guy's orb change. And then we'll use the other stack, so at least Guy can get some kind of love and do a little bit extra damage, but we're really working on buffing Yuki up because he's not going to be an EX ult. And I don't actually know if we get Valentine's EX ult here either. I think it's just 3 normal ults, which is unfortunate, but again, without Rimuru to open up your hands to full blues again, and to give you that massive ult gauge buff, it is pretty difficult to give multiple units EX ults. Like, we were able to do it with Fount of Wisdom because we were only focusing on having Hinata hit. Rimuru and Albis were just kind of like, yeah, you do extra stuff, you can have 1 ult. It wasn't priority focused to get them EX ults, and it definitely wasn't priority focused to get, you know, the World of Fantasy units EX ults either. You just wanted Millim to hit as hard as she could. So here would be a great time to use the orb change, or the orb swap from, you know, Earth Rimuru, but we don't have it. So we're going to do this. We're going to get 2 stacks again on, or 1 stack on everybody. We've got 4 turns left, and now we just kind of have to go with it. Guy is not going to get an EX ult here. We're trying our best to get Valentine her EX ult, but I don't think it works out, but I could be mistaken. At least we're getting good stacks, though. So here, we're going to swap Shion out for Guy, because we're no longer going to try and focus... Oh no, we're going to swap her out for Valentine. Alright. We're going to go for a full hand? Oh. Okay, sure. That works. Almost a full hand. So I guess I gave up and we're trying to go for Guy's ult. Oh, well, whatever. Unfortunate guard right there. So now we have a Shion ult, we have a Yuuki ult. Yuuki has his ult, which is important. He already has his attack buff. Does he? No, he doesn't have his attack buff up. Now he does. Alright, so we can hold that in the back for next turn. So he will already have that active. It's less points that we have to worry about. But yeah, we're not going to get EX ults for anybody. And that's just going to be the unfortunate side effect of not having Rimuru. On the plus side, though, we don't need as many points to nuke, because we don't have as many big-time buffs to use. We only have, you know, Guy and Valentine, so that's 160. We've already used Yuki's buff, so that's, you know, 25 we don't have to worry about. So it's really just 185 points, because we need the two big-time buffs and then Yuki's AoE debuff. So that is, what, 8, 16, 285? Which, do we have enough for that? No, it's 185. We have enough for that. What am I doing? Math is hard. It's early. Give me a break. So, here we go. So there's the debuff, then the 2 big-time buffs. So this is, you know, as good as this is going to get, realistically. So we'll send Valentine to, you know, lower their defense and everything. Let's send Yuki. We do get a full 6 send, though. So 258,000. Yuki does 350k, which is pretty good, and then Guy does 768. So, meh. Obviously, it's not full meta. Obviously, it's not the best score in the world. It's not 9 million fucking points. 3.2 million is still decent. It's still decent, right? 89,000 score. You're really going to see your value drop down with the less meta units you use, but again, it can work for you if you have access to it. But let's, and there are a lot of units you can easily swap out with, but let's do one more run on Boss Battle 1 with not a great team, and then we'll move on to Boss Battle 2. Alright, I'm not going to show you everything on this team, but obviously we're not running the best thing in the world. We're running a water-focused team. All water units with EX Rimuru and EX Milim. If you don't have them, you could just swap Hinata up and you can bring Water Soe, I guess, someone else. You know, this is last resort kind of things, but we're going to get some water stacks with our 3 damage dealers, them being Shion, Rimuru, and Milim, because 2 of them are AoEs, and this is an AoE-focused stage. We do have turn 1 orb change with Shuna, so that's good. And then we also have it with Rimuru. And then we have other free-to-play water Rimuru to kind of get rid of the greens and the RNG by stealing. But it's the same regardless, and it's just going to be a terrible score, so I don't think we need to sit through everything about it. So turn 1... we have the Rimuru ult, we have the Milim ult, and we have the Shion ult in the back. We have enough points to use full buffs, so we've already used the ult buff with Shuna, and now we're going to bring in the other 2. So now we can use the physical buff, the 2 buffs from Shion, and then Milim's own crit buff and attack buff. So there's that. One more stack of Milim, or one more stack of Milim, and then pop, 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 and pop. Again, this isn't going to be great, but if it's what you got, it's what you got. And then we'll kind of just nuke away. Not looking for millions of damage, though. So, just, there you go. 69,000 with Shion, awesome. Rimuru, 120,000, because he has the physical buff. And then Milim, with everything on her, she does 357k. So we broke 1 million with this team. So there is your last Boss Battle 1 team that I'm going to show you. Obviously it's not good. But what is the final score? Because I actually don't remember what the final score is. 44. I totally cut myself off on the last clip, but you know, we did 44k. There you go. There's a water team. Here is the team that I ran for Boss Battle 2 that got me my highest score so far. We ditched Albis because I don't want to deal with the RNG for this run, and we're only going to be using really Rimuru and Guy to be the buffer units, so we're going to go ahead with this. I don't think we need to watch the entire thing. The starting hand is even more tuned towards the meta because you need Guy's orb change turn 1 because it's 2 green and 1 orange. So if you don't have that, it gets kind of difficult. You can definitely bring someone to change the greens. You could bring a special converter to change one of the orange and one of the greens into 5 blues, but without Guy, you're not going to get that full 6-turn send right there. But again, now, because of the single target, we're focusing on getting ults for Valentine, Guy, and Rimuru. Valentine because she lowers the defense down, and then our 2 single targets are going to hit harder in this stage. So working on getting them built up is important. Also with this stage, I do believe I send 2 ults somewhere in the middle when I do have it. So let's zoom forward to that. So this is orb changing, lots of orb changing, lots of stacking. He does put an attack nerf on you twice though. I think turn 3, the end of turn 3 and the end of turn 6 is where he does that. So it's very possible that based on who you're swapping out, you might have 1 or even 2 units with an attack nerf on, which obviously isn't great. It's only 20%, but there's no way to get that back because no one is giving an attack buff on this team. So just kind of be aware. Like right now, Valentine has it for 1 more turn because it's blinking. Rimuru and Guy don't have it. They're gonna get it, I think, sometime in the next few turns. But there's an ult, and there's an ult. We did use 2 buffs though. We used Valentine's buff and Guy's buff to get some extra damage because I was feeling confident that, you know, we still have 3 turns left. We can probably build it back by using Rimuru's massive ult gauge gain. So there's full blues, there's the ult. So for here, because Valentine is not as high priority, I don't focus on getting her EX ult. It's much more important to at least get her ult effect from an ult that's buffed, but then also get EX ults for Guy and Rimuru, because that is just much more important. But we do end up getting both here, because I don't know what I did 2 days ago. But now it's important to get the skill points necessary, 320 skill points to use all of the buffs. This is the second to last turn, so we're going to swap one of those, orb change with EX Rimuru, and then send 5 blues, and that puts us at 344, which is perfect. We have 1 more stack of Velzard to use on the nuke turn, and we already have our 2 DPS units up front to receive the Font of Wisdom Rimuru's buff. Now, obviously, any team that I used for Boss Battle 1 can be used here. So, like, I probably don't even have to continue the video after this, but I will. Obviously, it's still a blue-focused team, right? You're still doing damage to people, just not 3 now. But it's, you know, an exercise of how much can you do. So any team that I used in the first half of the video totally can work here, whether it be that jank team with Yuuki and stuff, maybe swap him out for Carrion then, because he is single target. The water team that I showed can work. Alright, the Albis team can definitely work and will probably help you do more damage than I did here using Rimuru, but that takes a lot of RNG. We did 6 million damage with those. It's, you know, it's what I have for my current score, so 206k. It's pretty good. So let's move on to a less fortunate team, and I think we'll end it because this video is kind of getting long already. Alright, last team, Boss Battle 2. We're going to use Light 3.0, the full Light 3.0. We're going to bring Soka for the turn 1 orb change and to take away even more RMG. So we've got Shuna for the alt buff orb change, Milim for the attack buff, light resistance down, and her steal, Raphael for the nuke, Soka for the defense down, extension of the stun, which we do use, and then her special conversion, and then Lumi for her orb change and the massive green buff. So let's go ahead and zoom this up to 150%. So turn 1, we do have that Guy orb change, which we can't do anything about because we don't have Guy. So we're going to bring Soka in and use her orb change to at least get 5. That way we can keep our 2 pure orb changers, Shuna and Lumi, at base cost, because it gets a little expensive. And unfortunate here, because we only get 38 points back, and we can't do much about it. So we're just going to use Lumi, and we're going to send it. So we're just going to have to make do. We're focusing on our 3 single target damage dealers right here, getting full buffs. So Lumi, Raphael, and Soka. Shuna is water. She's not really going to get the buffs from the light team. And then Milim is an AoE, which technically her ult effect would help us do extra damage, but I would rather have the single target from Soka if we're going to keep on buffing her up completely. But this team runs really well because we have so much orb changing that we can get out of almost any scenario. And we don't need EX ults either, so once Raphael and Lumi get an ult, I mean, Lumi's an orb changer, but once Raphael gets an ult, he can go in the back. Soka can go in the back, and we just need stacks. So this does eliminate a lot of RNG, but is obviously not a meta team. And Diablo also has natural pierce resistance, which is going to hurt us a little bit, because it's still the 20% that the first battle had, but this team is very dependent on piercing. So reducing that in any way, shape, or form is just not great. Oh well. But we're going to send Soka's ult here just to get it out of our hand, and then we'll get full damage, and then we'll just build it back up, hopefully. Hopefully being the key word. So just continuing to stack. We now have a Lumi ult, which is good, but I don't want to send this. So we're going to swap her out for Milim because she has a lot of orbs. So we're going to use that first. We're going to bring Milim in for Lumi. We're going to hold her in the back now, use the orb swap, and then Soka's orb change to give us a full hand. Unfortunately, no Raphael orbs, so if I was smart, I would swap Raphael out, but I'm not, so chances are high you don't get orbs for the nuker you want, and you've probably already experienced that in your time doing Jubilee, is that the one unit that you need orbs for, you don't get orbs for. So there we go, we got 1 Raphael orb and no natural blues. Incredible. I love it so much. But because we have who we have on this team, we can make it work almost. So, can being the key word. So let's do this. We'll use the 2 stacks because these are our 3 nukers, and that's very important they get those stacks. We'll use Lumi's orb change, and then we'll bring in Milim to hopefully get rid of the rest of them. So there's that. And yeah, we'll have Soka and Milim be able to convert that away. So 1, 2. There we go. We used literally all of our points, but literally all of them. But at least we got back to a full blue hand, which got us, 293 points, which is we're capped out. So there we go. And then this hand is much better. We have 3 Raphael orbs. We have 1 Soka orb. 2 Soka orbs, so this will guarantee that we can get everything. It's just that this setup means that Lumi, who is our next best nuker, is not going to get the attack buff from Milim. It's going to be Soka and Raphael, because they both still need to get their ults. So it is kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. So there's the final orb change. We'll do the stun and then the stun extension, so we don't have to worry about points next turn, which we probably would have had enough regardless, but oh well. This also lowers his defense by a little bit, and means that he'll be stunned for this turn and the next turn. And then the attack buff is going to wear off from Raphael and Soka here now as well, which is good, which means they'll do, full damage. So Shuna has it, doesn't matter, she's not nuking. So there is the ult buff right there. We'll bring Milim in for Shuna, and then we will use her attack buff. I think we would have had enough points to use her orb steal, but I didn't want to risk it, so oh well. So there's 55 and 80, yeah, we would have had enough. So we actually have enough to use Valentine's orb change, which, is fine. But then we'll do the 2 stacks with Xion, or not Xion, but Shuna, and then we'll nuke away. and you know, if it's what you got, it's what you got. Like I said, any blue team can work here. If you don't have any of these teams, then just run an Earth team and do what you can. I didn't do any of those showcases, unfortunately, but honestly, you use what you got. This is just going to be an example to give you some inspiration. But what's our final score? Yeah, we did 1.5 million with that team. It's not the worst thing in the world, but could be better. 64,500 points. It is what it is. So let me know if this video helped you guys out, helped you with at least a little bit of team building if you didn't have the full meta. But that's it for me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.